Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. And so, after the incredible by election results, which represent not only unwelcome but surprising defeats for Conservative MPs, how will the parliamentary party react? Because how most MPs see the situation will determine how they react to it. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So after we've processed the results of the quite incredible by-election results today, where Labour took 2 seats, which many Tory MPs thought they would retain both, and I think almost all of them thought they'd get at least 1, it's worth considering how Tory MPs are going to react to it. Obviously, quite a few correspondents have been revealing what their sources within the parliamentary party have had to say about the results, mostly anonymously, of course. Some Tory MPs are saying to each other that they think the by-election losses are purely the result of Conservative voters staying at home, but they'll all come out to vote at the general election. It'll all be fine. Don't worry, we're going to win another election. Now, this is, of course, complete rubbish. Yes, seats like Mid-Bedfordshire are almost certainly going to go back to the Conservatives, but this is one of their safest seats. There are way more, the vast majority in fact, where they really won't get enough coming out for them. It is a delusion of the highest order, and I'll tell you why I think it is. The vast majority of Tory MPs, and I mean something like 75 to 80% of them, have never had a real fight in an election before. They won their seats in 2010 or later, straight into government when Labour were putting up a poor challenge to them. Some individual MPs may have won their seat with a tough local battle, but the vast majority of the parliamentary party really hasn't ever had to dig deep, understand their voters and scrap for the win. They're not match fit, some of them never were, and above all, they don't know how to react to a real challenge from Labour because they've never experienced it. And also, they're not necessarily even students of politics. Like, I've not been an MP ever, and yet I know how things were working leading up to the 97 general election, where Labour were also winning by-elections with large swings towards them, like we're seeing now. They may not actually know about that. They may not understand the historical context here. And I'm not just talking about backbenchers. Most members of the cabinet haven't experienced this sort of fight. You know, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, has only been an MP since 2015. The same goes for a lot of his cabinet colleagues. So there's no real leadership within the party here. And in the absence of that experience, you can see why it's easy for MPs to be utterly deluded about the hole they're in. But there are other MPs who recognise the results are disastrous. What I don't know is how many Tory MPs are hooked up to the copium and how many have got clear sight of their roads to oblivion. Now, let me go over some of the comments which have been reported. First, Andrew Bowie, a junior minister, so member of the government. When asked if the government should change their approach as a result of these defeats, he said that the message they were getting from voters was that they should carry on with what they're doing. So the government intends to stick its head in the sand over this one. Danny Kruger, a backbencher, seemed to suggest the results were bad, but showed that they need to focus more on migration and culture wars. This is actually just as deluded. The government have been focusing on migration and culture wars. They've talked about nothing else other than coming up with excuses for schools and hospitals falling down. How do you recognise that the results are bad and conclude that what you need to do is do more of the stuff you've already been focusing on? Another said it was because the government were talking about banning conversion therapy. Now, the government have promised to ban conversion therapy some time ago. Then they said, oh, sorry, we've run out of parliamentary time, even though they've been shutting Parliament down early for months. Then the government recently piped up again in the last week or so, saying, oh, we might ban it next year. Now, the idea that this was even partially responsible for the results is utterly ludicrous. First of all, Labour are promising to ban conversion therapy very quickly in government anyway. So the idea that people would allow Labour to win, who are much more clearly against conversion therapy, is ridiculous. Second, polls have suggested that Labour were favourites for these by-elections for weeks. That precedes the government's latest statement on it. But this is the sort of behaviour I'm actually expecting from a lot of Tory MPs. Like, in some ways, The basic principles of politics is easy. To get elected, you need to listen to voters and give them confidence that you're addressing their main concerns. Now, you can't please everyone, but if you are at least seen to address their main concerns, you don't need to please absolutely everyone in every regard. It's like, are you at least hitting those main buttons? The Conservatives have been promising much since 2010. Now, they haven't delivered on any of the more attractive promises, so it shows you don't actually have to deliver as such. You just have to give voters confidence that you're trying to. And that's what they've done over the last 13 odd years. They've given the impression that they were at least listening to voters somehow. But instead of doing that now, Tory MPs are all grouping into their favoured factions and working out how to convince Sunak that the problem, the missing piece of the puzzle, is whatever their particular brain fart of choice is. Changing something which ignores the major concerns of voters is just as mad as not changing anything at all. Basically, the problem for the Tories is that even if a majority of them can see that there's a real problem here and that voters aren't actually going to come out the woodwork to propel them to victory at the next election, instead of focusing on voters, literally the only way to correct their course, they're instead focusing on what they want, in the conceited belief that what they want is also what voters will want, even though they've got not one shred of evidence for this. But what will MPs do? Well, broadly speaking, they can do one of three things. First, they could call into question Sunak's leadership. Next Wednesday, if 53 Tory MPs have submitted a letter to the 1922 committee expressing their lack of confidence in Rishi Sunak, then a confidence vote will take place. Even if Sunak wins, his authority will be shot. There'll be no way back from this, so there is a fairly extreme course of action on offer here. Being clear, I think Tory MPs will just make things worse by challenging Sunak. There's no good outcome for them if they do this. Whether they replace him or not, any major show of dissatisfaction will completely sink their chances of coming back. Granted, I don't think they are coming back because I don't think enough Tory MPs have got their heads screwed on right, but this would end any hope of it. But I can imagine how some would think. They might think, well, when we made Sunak leader, the public gave him the benefit of the doubt. His poll ratings were decent. He had that honeymoon period, but he's squandered it now. It's gone. He can't get it back. So get someone else in, play the same trick. The public give them the benefit of the doubt and then go for an election before everyone realises that the new leader's just as bad as the others. But this thinking won't really work. First, it would mean changing leader for the third time inside one parliament where they've got a clear majority with, the public going, what are you doing? They won't have any idea why this is happening. They will look proper clowns. Second, it would mean another leadership contest where the challengers all take it in turns to say how shit the country is after 13 years of Tory rule, just like they did last year. That'll just gift Labour more viral social media videos. Third, they don't actually have anyone better than Sunak. And there's a chance they end up with another Liz Truss level calamity like Braverman running the show. Be utter madness to even threaten Sunak's leadership. But can we be sure there aren't 53 mad Tory MPs? No, of course we can't, so it might happen. The second option is to group together, get a large group of you together, and with an agreed change of emphasis and demand action from Sunak. Threaten him behind closed doors. There's already a group led by Liz Truss threatening to vote against the budget. There is certainly scope to force Sunak to change course. As I said, I don't think they'll force him to change direction towards a better election result for them, because I don't think they know what they're doing. I have not seen a single Tory MP, openly or anonymously quoted, saying that the party needs to listen to voters and respond to their needs. I find it incredible that not one single backbench MP that I have seen, who might not give a shit about the leadership, can't even be anonymously quoted as saying, look, it's clear the cost of living and healthcare are the main issues and the government needs to address those. So if a group does make credible demands of Sunak, it will be for something stupid like 5 magic beans. But it will be more intelligent than just trying to trigger another leadership contest. Their third option is to do nothing. Some are already stepping down, which is largely the same thing. They can work on their job applications. The rest can get their CVs up to date, maybe cross out the bit about being a Conservative MP, pretend they were doing missionary work somewhere instead, and get busy looking at the job market. This third option, as bizarre as it might sound, might actually be the most sensible, It does nobody any good to try and change the leader now. Well, nobody in the Conservative Party. It would be hilarious for Labour. You know, it would not do any Tory MP any good, least of all the new leader, because they'll just end up competing to see if they can last longer than Liz Truss. Banding together to demand changes from Sunak, that is a good option if they actually want to pay attention to the changes that will work. But it's clear that the Tory party right now are like headless chickens. So they probably won't even form a large enough group to demand even stupid changes. They'll splinter into smaller factions with competing demands instead. So just throwing in the towel for any MPs with any sense may well be all they can do at this point. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.